This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast, our first podcast of 2025. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi, and today we have a whole bunch of topics that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about some card-related stuff. We're going to talk about some NHL-related stuff. We're going to talk about some World Junior Championship and Professional Women's Hockey League related stuff. So we're going to be all over the damn map today. So guys, how you doing? Happy New Year. Woo!
Happy New Year. I always forget how annoying it is to take down Christmas decorations. So I spent the weekend doing that. So happy to be talking about hockey cards and not tinsel and ornaments and lights.
Tinsel gets everywhere.
I brought all the boxes in. We took all the stuff down. It's just all sitting in piles waiting to be put in the boxes.
You do it in phases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I got sick over the weekend, so.
Do you want to talk about it?
This is Tim's flu game.
I mean, being sick is just your body's way of saying that you're way too awesome and you need to slow down so everyone else can catch up to you. So That's really where I'm at right now. So you're welcome to all of you.
Glad we could catch up.
Yeah. I think I got sick at New Year's. I think a bunch of people did. I went to a super spreader event, so that's why we're all sick.
Yeah, last year at this time I had COVID. I tested positive. That's literally how I started the new year, was with COVID. What was weird is that nobody else in my family or in my circle had COVID. Somehow everybody was fine. I was the only one. I can't explain that. Hung out with my brother, his side of the family, my sister, her husband, my girlfriend, my aunt, everybody that I hung out with, nobody got sick. I was the only one. I still don't know how that happens.
One of them things.
Yeah, one of them things. So, one thing that's nice about the Christmas to New Year and shortly thereafter is the World Junior Championships. And I like watching it, especially because like the day after Christmas, there were no NHL games on, which is fine because, players need some time off and they get 3 days off. I think they get Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after Christmas, or Boxing Day, as they call it in Canada, off. And I think was it the Dallas Stars that got fined because they had like an optional practice on like the day after Christmas, and like some Stars players went to it and they fined the team. And they were like, well, it was optional. And it's like, yeah, but you made the ice available, so it's your fault. But yeah, so you get the World Junior Championships. And did you guys get a chance? We'll talk about Team USA winning the gold medal for 2 years in a row. But did you guys have a chance to watch any of the games?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I watched a little bit.
Clemente, do you have an NHL Network, or did you watch them on ESPN Plus?
ESPN Plus, and like you said, that's a really quiet week, and so it's nice to sort of dip in and dip out. But I have to admit, I don't watch the tournament like I do watch the Winter Olympics, the hockey tournament. Like that one, I feel like I'm more attached to, maybe because it's in February and not in the middle of seeing friends and family and doing all these other things, and time zone, that kind of thing. But if I'm home, it would be the kind of thing I would put on. So yeah, no, I did enjoy it. And maybe the bigger story is that the U.S. won 2 in a row, but that Canada was eliminated fairly early in the tournament quarterfinals.
Yeah, how about that? That was such a debacle of picking a team and participating in the tournament that even their own prime minister resigned. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't pick the leading scorers or some of the leading scorers in junior hockey, and it's like, why? Like, why not? Why don't you, like, I understand that sometimes you say, oh, we need checking forwards and stuff. I think it's maybe a little easier for an older player to change their roles, because I remember when I wrote about the 87 Canada Cup. Now I'm talking about the best players in the world, and this was the 80s. So But I remember talking to like certain players. Like I remember talking to like Rick Tocchet and him saying, look, I would play whatever role Mike Keenan told me to play. Like I wanted to go out and score goals when I played for the Flyers, but on this team, he's like, look, we need you to be a checking forward. We need you to be a defensive forward. And that's the thing. It's sometimes you just get those best players and they say, yeah, we know you lead your team in scoring, but on this team, we really need you to be our shutdown guy. Right.
But at some point you overthink it. And that's exactly what they did.
Right.
I mean, you got 5 games, you score 13 points and basically have a cavalcade of players going to the penalty box every couple minutes, and you give up a power play goal almost every single time.
Yeah.
Come on. That's just completely undisciplined hockey.
Yeah.
And I get it. These guys are young, but this is supposed to be the best assembly that they could put together of players, and it just didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you should get your best players. Look, you could take a really offensively gifted player, and it's probably easier to get him to play defensively than to get a defensively gifted player and try to get him to score goals for you. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't necessarily work in a tournament like this. So,
well, it didn't help that Matthew Schaefer broke his collarbone. That was kind of upsetting. He's projected to go pretty high in the draft, too. And so that didn't really bode well. And the fact that they left Michael Misa off the roster completely.
I know. What's up with that?
Or Beckett.
Beckett, Seneke, right?
Yeah, neither of them were on there. So, but well, I mean, that's what they thought they could win the tournament with, and well, here we are. So, they call it disastrous. I mean, it's just hockey, but some places have it running through their veins. So, being first or last.
Yeah, it also got me excited for the Four Nations face-off, which is going to basically replace the All-Star game this year. And that has NHL players, obviously, so it's going to be highly competitive. But it is going to be sort of exhibition-y at the same time. But like Tim said, I think the Canadians take it seriously when they play internationally.
Well, you got a much bigger pool of players if you're pulling from NHLers than you are of
but it's a prelude
U18. But
it's a prelude to the Olympics too. But
right.
So, it'll be interesting. I like international hockey. I do think it gets the juices flowing, and it'll be fun. And, these tournaments also remind me, especially the World Juniors, the last few years anyway, the Russians aren't in it because of the whole thing with the war in Ukraine. So, so there is something, even the Four Nations face-off doesn't have, Russia isn't one of the 4 countries in it.
Right.
So, that's a huge group of players, whether pros or amateur, that we're just not seeing. And so, I understand the sanctions, you have to impose them, but, so it's something lacking there anyway. But anyway, I always wondered if the World Juniors got moved to a different time. Like if it was in January, I might be more apt to watching it, but I guess that's a good sort of a segue to when we get to talk about the Winter Classic.
Yeah, but I do want to say this about the World Juniors, because we talked about Canada, but got to give props to Finland getting the silver medal. That went to overtime, USA versus Finland. So
yeah,
you don't get much closer than that. I mean,
that final game, the US had multiple opportunities to put Finland away, and they just kept coming. So, I mean, you got to hand it to the Finns. That was a good team.
Yeah, and then the Czech Republic beating Canada to get the bronze medal. Congratulations to them too. So, one thing I'm gonna complain a little because I want to, because that's what we do sometimes.
I thought that was my job.
Well, I like to share the burden sometimes.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, so you have the NHL Network, so you're able to watch any or all of the games, right?
Yeah.
They were all kind of spaced out far enough.
Yeah.
And that's great. And these were all in Canada, so we kind of had Eastern time zone. So they had an 11 a.m. game. They had a 4 p.m. game. They had a 7 p.m. game. So if you could watch them all, if you were home, you could watch them all. My problem is that ESPN Plus only would show 1 game a day. They would never show the US game. And that bothers me because it's like, oh, we want to grow hockey in the United States. Oh, cool. Yeah, let's let's take our junior hockey team and not televise their games anywhere. I mean, anywhere easy. Because like I said, if you want NHL Network, you have to have that top tier cable subscription package, depending on who your provider was. It's like that with DirecTV. I think with Comcast, it was the middle tier, not the upper tier. But that's the thing, is that it's just not an easy station to get. You don't just get it with basic cable. The other sports leagues usually make it pretty easy, and the NHL, they paywall everything, and then they wonder why nobody wants to watch their games, right? And so here's what I had to do. First day, December 26th, I watched the game on ESPN Plus, and I said, oh, okay, USA's playing. Let me see if I can find one of those illicit streams on YouTube. And I found it, and then after like 10 minutes, it had like this pop-up ad that would cover most of the screen, and it would have a link. And I'd click on that link, and it was like a 50-50 chance. Sometimes you'd go to some horrible website that would just overload you with pop-ups, and other times you'd actually get to watch the game. So then I was able to like have it on my laptop and then cast it to my television. And I'm like, okay, life is good. You know, I can watch this game. But as it went on, it got harder and harder to do that. And like the gold medal game, I'm like on YouTube and I'm like searching for USA versus Finland WAJC stream live, whatever. And I get like a stream of it. And then after like 10 minutes, there'd be like a pop-up that would cover up like the middle third of like the screen. And I'd be like, damn it. And then I'd like back out and I'd find another stream, but it was in German. So then I'd mute that one and have the audio from the US, the English one going, or the TSN broadcast, while I'd be watching like the German stream of the TSN broadcast, but with German broadcasters, or what, I think they were German, whatever. I didn't understand them. And that's the thing. Like I had to do like all this like kind of stupid stuff. And I know you're thinking, dude, just freaking subscribe to it, right? But no.
You could have just texted me. I would have told you where to go find it.
Oh, well,
we could talk after the show, but I can tell you where. I can tell you.
Well, I mean, somebody told me onhockey.tv was one, and I was actually, I think I used that the first time and it worked, but then after that it didn't. But my problem is that the NHL wants to grow the game and they're doing a terrible job of it. But we've said that all the time, right? I understand that like there's revenue to be made, but like if TSN had all the games broadcast on ESPN in the US, and they did the thing with the ads, like show some US ads instead of Canadian ads or whatever, everybody would win. And we'd get to see the games instead of just making it so freaking hard. So
we say it all the time. Best sport, worst league.
Yeah. Best sport, worst league.
Yeah. Best sport, worst league. As far as management of it.
Now, I know Clemente tried to segue into the Winter Classic, and I just totally derailed that. But any other thoughts about?
I mean, when we get to the Winter Classic, we're just going to say ditto. I mean, but no, that was the other thing too. It was hard to watch in the sense that you couldn't get everything, and I was so involved in other things that I just didn't make it a priority. But why is it not a priority? I don't know. I mean, in Canada, like one New Year's, I actually was in Quebec City, and I watched it because it was on. When you're in Canada, it's on. It's crazy. Like it's on in your hotel room, and then when you leave your hotel room and you walk down the street, every TV you see in a bar and a restaurant has it on. And so, like you were saying, it's in their blood. So yeah, to be there and to watch it was cool. But otherwise, I don't pay much mind to it because I end up reading about it more than I do seeing anything, because it's more something that is not accessible. And so I don't think there's much of a demand for it among the American hockey public. Like what you were describing, Sal, what you were doing to watch it, I don't think anyone was doing that. I mean, that's like really unique that you really wanted to watch it. But I agree with you. If it's available, people will, if you build it, they will come. In this case, probably. I mean, hockey fans exist. They're there. And they probably would watch it.
It was a good tournament overall, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it's ever really a bad tournament.
I think that was a great finals game.
Anyway, shall we talk Winter Classic?
Let's do it.
So what do you want to tell me? Because I didn't watch it. Yes, I'm from Chicago. Yes, I'm a Blackhawks fan. And no, I did not watch the Winter Classic. I did watch a little bit of it, but then I went out for New Year's Eve because, oh my God, the game was on New Year's Eve and not New Year's day. And what the hell was the NHL thinking? Were they like, oh, there's bowl games. There's the Doritos Bowl and the Tostitos Bowl and the Progressive Insurance College Bowl and right? Isn't that what happens on January 1? You have all these like Rose Bowls and stuff.
You have a lot of the college tournaments, games. But it doesn't change the fact that they royally screwed up by putting it on New Year's Eve.
Not only did they put it on New Year's Eve, but they put it on at 4 in the afternoon. I could have gone to the game, actually. Somebody asked me if I wanted to go, and I'm like, oh, it's on January 1, right? No, it's on December 31st. Oh, but it's like noon, right? No, it's at 4. Oh, yeah, no. Oh, thanks, but no. I went out for dinner, spent the evening with my girlfriend, and which seemed like the adult thing to do, versus like, hey, I'm going to this hockey game at 4 in the afternoon. Hey, you want to come with and freeze your feet off? And although I think it's like 40 degrees, but usually it's colder. But like, yeah, terrible time slot and terrible performance by the Blackhawks. I did catch the Smashing Pumpkins though play before the game, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, I know I get it. It's like a 1990s era band, but that's what I grew up on. So it's better than when they had the Jersey Boys at that Rangers outdoor game. But
no, I agree. Like the whole ritual of getting up late on New Year's Day and just bumming around the house and having nothing to do and then just putting it on. I had grown accustomed to doing that. Like I love doing that every year on New Year's Day because New Year's Day is like a super lazy day for most people.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like I have kids and I went out like around that time. I didn't watch any of the game. And then on January 1, I felt kind of like, oh. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have DVR'd it and just watched it the next day, like as if it was live. But I didn't think any of that. All I thought of was like, oh, it's on at 4 o'clock on December or 5 o'clock on December 31st. I'm not interested. I'm out. And I didn't watch it. And then, you guys are saying it's the lowest rated Winter Classic ever. No surprise.
Oh, and in January 1, there was one NHL game that day.
Right.
And it was on NHL Network only in the United States.
Right.
Unless you were, I think it was a Kings Devils game. So obviously, if you were in those local markets, you got to watch it. But it wasn't on the Plus. Like December 31, there were a ton of NHL games. I want to say that there's at least like 10. I know this because I play fantasy hockey. So I'm always keeping an eye on like how many games are going on and stuff. So like December 31, the Winter Classic was just one of many games that day. And there were games early. I mean, there were games as early as like 11:30 Chicago time. So there was a lot of hockey to watch that day. And then as the evening came around, people were doing other stuff. The Blackhawks were terrible. I mean, the Blues won 6-2. Good on them. It was Cam Fowler's 1,000th game, and he got 2 goals in that game. So that's good on him. I get that the Blackhawks are popular because of Connor Bedard, but he can only really do so much for the team. And I don't know, maybe this wasn't the year for them to do this sort of thing.
I mean, these are obviously given long enough ahead of time in planning to say, okay, on paper, you got a rival team playing against each other, and we have to put the Bedard in front of everybody's face constantly 24/7 because he's got to be our new marketing chip. Because every year there's somebody, and that's it. Right. So, okay, cool. Let's do that. But you don't think bigger picture that the Hawks are in, let's face it, they're in the middle of a rebuild, and it's not going well. So, because it's in the early stages of let's clean out the cupboard and start over. So, I don't know. That's your first mistake, but obviously they're planning this way ahead of time, so you can never know that the Blackhawks are going to be basically the worst to put on TV at that point. Which, by the way, what's their record in Winter Classics now? The Hawks?
Oh, well, they haven't won a Winter Classic, and the only outdoor game they won was against the Penguins in a stadium series at Soldier Field.
That was the one in 14, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're 0-5 on Winter Classic, so That's not boding well. But yeah, this had a 920. So didn't even hit 1 million viewers. I think they said there was something like 1/4 hour period where it got over 1 million. But it was so far below that every other time. It averaged 920,000, which is still pretty high for a hockey game for the NHL.
But not this game.
But not this game. It's the lowest Winter Classic, and I didn't think anything would top last year's when you had an expansion team against the let's everybody hate on team du jour with Vegas. And here we did it. So I don't know. Bad day to put it on. You know, you're trying to avoid the college football playoffs, trading a date for something else. And I mean, that didn't work. Bad team matchup, bad performance by the home team.
Maybe what would have helped was to have it on the 31st at noon, or just suck it up and put it on the 1st, which is what they usually do. And I just wonder if this entire format idea is played out. It's not new anymore. The novelty's off. Even people who never watch hockey would watch this game, and even they're not doing that anymore. So I just wonder if the newness is gone, and so now they have to think of some other ploy, and I don't know what that is, but this is not.
And that's what raises the question, because you figure this has been around since 2008, right?
Yeah.
From about 2008 till 2015, they averaged 3 million on every single one of them.
Well, no, but here's another thing. I got to interject this really quick. This was on TNT. And I understand that most people have cable now. So saying that it's buried on cable, even though TNT's basic cable. So I don't know. I mean, I think more people probably have cable than they don't. But
no, but that has something to do with it.
No, because when the game was on, when it was NBC Sports Network, they always had the Winter Classic on NBC. And when has the Winter Classic been on ABC? Like last year, like don't they alternate it? I'm trying to remember now.
I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so the thing is like, I feel that like when you have it on like NBC or ABC or something, that is going to draw a lot more viewers than when it's on a cable channel.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think all of these things contributed to this, right? I don't think the fact that the Blackhawks are not a good team contributed to it not having good ratings.
Sure about that?
Well, it's the number 3 market in the United States.
Overall, sure. But that game pulled a 2.5 in Chicago. A 2.5.
Right. Because we were doing stuff, because that's what we do in Chicago. We do stuff on New Year's Eve. We don't stay home and watch hockey games at 4:00 on New Year's Eve.
But if the Hawks fans were really into it, they would have found a way, and they didn't. So
well, I did record it to watch the next day, like Clemente said. I even recorded the pregame, which I had on while I was getting ready, so I didn't really need to watch that again. And I even recorded the postgame. But after them hearing that they got drubbed 6-2, I'm just like, do I really want to watch this? Nah, it's okay. And so I still have it recorded. I just haven't watched it. And I don't
DVR people are not Nielsen families. They don't count.
No, I get it. Oh, you know what I did watch though on New Year's Eve? You guys will be so happy to hear this.
The Twilight Zone Marathon?
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Nope, not the Twilight Zone Marathon. Wrong holiday, dude. My girlfriend and I were trying to find a movie to watch, and I said, "Oh, I got just a movie we need to watch," because we were talking about this in our last podcast.
Oh no!
And I put on Die Hard.
Oh, Die Hard. Okay, I think I was say Transformers.
Oh God, no! I don't want to be single again. So not because I like Transformers, but just because those Transformer movies are terrible. Although Transformers 1 was okay, I'd watch it again. But no, and what's funny is I didn't say anything to her. I said, "Oh, I got a great movie we should watch." I said, "This is really one of the."
I have a great Christmas movie to show you.
No. See, I didn't say that. I just said this is one of those classic American action movies. And then even like when the scene where Bruce Willis's character is crawling through the duct, she said, "Oh, I remember seeing this scene," because it's just like one of those iconic movie scenes, right? But then at the end of the movie, when the credits were rolling, she goes, "Oh, so this was a Christmas movie."
Ah.
And I'm like, I still think it's an action movie. She's like, Yeah, but it happened at a Christmas party, and there's Christmas decorations and there's Christmas music, so it's a Christmas movie. And I say to her, I go, no, but it could have happened it could have happened at a retirement party. And then she's like, well, no, but it couldn't because of blah, 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 because somebody wouldn't fly in for that. And, and I'm like, just like, okay, yeah, all right, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I might be the only one who thinks it's an action movie and not a Christmas movie, first and foremost.
I don't think it's a Christmas movie. I think I made that known. It takes place during Christmas. Just because something has a backdrop of a holiday doesn't make it a holiday movie.
Yeah, because I would make Gremlins a Christmas movie. Would it?
Yeah, that came out in the summer. I remember that, though.
And so Die Hard. Die Hard came out in July of 88, I think. So also it didn't come out at Christmas. So whatever. I'm sorry, wrong podcast. But no. But but it almost is related to the Winter Classic in that everything has a date. I'll give you an example. Like the NBA took over Christmas Day until the NFL stole it from them this year, right? So the NHL kind of stole its own holiday by putting it on the 31st. I don't know what they need to do. Maybe they need to move it to a different date. That's, the first was great because people were lounging around at home, and I'm not a huge college football guy. So I don't care if there's 27 bowl games on New Year's Day. I'm still not going to watch them, most likely. But I would have watched the Winter Classic. And so this year that didn't happen. And so I think next year they will put it back on New Year's Day, or they won't even do it. They'll think of something else. I don't know what that is. I was hoping that they would have picked different teams and maybe put it in a warm place. Maybe have done like the Utah Hockey Club could have had a game in the desert somewhere against, whatever, or who knows.
I think Gary Bettman hinted at the Winter Classic for next year, and he says it's going to be in a different, I think he almost hinted at like a warm place, because I think he said it's going to be in a place that you wouldn't expect it to be.
They need to change it up. They need to make it interesting.
Yeah, the talk has been to put it down in Florida. Either Tampa or Sunrise.
Yeah.
It's logistics of it, really, is what it boils down to. Because honestly, here's the thing. Game aside and everything, the production of it, I mean, they put these things off without a hitch, it seems like now. As long as there's no sun, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even in the couple warmer climate ones that they've done, they haven't had ice problems. The only problem has been up to this point, and sorry, my voice is bad, but the only problem up to this point has been the sun in any time.
Which could make Florida a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So depends on where they put it, though. I mean, the Marlins Stadium is inoperable at the moment.
Yes. I thought it was it was the Tampa Rays Stadium that was damaged in the hurricane.
Or the Rays, yeah.
Yeah.
The Rays and one of them.
I think the whole roof got blown off. So
yeah.
Do you remember it was a Winter Classic? It was one of the ones that Washington played in. And I want to say that the sun was a problem, so they ended up postponing the game until the evening. And so it looked really cool because it was night out. And they do like an on-ice shot of like the players skating, and you'd see the moon hanging in the sky in the background. And it was just so freaking cool. So I wouldn't mind if it was an evening game, like on January 1. But like Clemente said, it's for many of us or most of us, it's a great day to just stay home, lounge around. You just kind of roll out of bed. Hopefully you have some leftovers from the night before. You heat them up for lunch, and you turn on the TV and watch the Winter Classic. And I was denied that this year. So
I just want them to stop using baseball stadiums. Football stadiums, I'm good with, but the baseball stadium sightlines suck.
Yeah. So we're configured. It's a weird shape.
Yeah.
Football, they can adapt. The baseball, that's tough.
Yeah, well, Wrigley Field used to be a football stadium too.
Yeah, but in the old days, they used to all host both.
Yeah. Okay, well, since we're on the topic of the Blackhawks, you guys want to talk about former Chicago Blackhawks captain Jonathan Toews potentially making a comeback? Could it happen this season?
Yeah, what's up with that rumor?
Well, we've kind of all read the same things, that he's been focusing on his health. He feels great. He wants to play again. He says he's not done. He wasn't really the same player since he missed the entire 2021 season. Again, that was the COVID shortened season. So he was out that whole year. He came back and he was just kind of mediocre. The Blackhawks couldn't trade him because he didn't want to be traded. He had the no movement clause. They were trying to trade both Kane and Toews so that they could tank for Bedard. And they were able to trade Patrick Kane. They didn't trade Jonathan Toews. I do remember I want to say the day of their last regular season game. Well, they weren't going to make the playoffs. So their final game of the season, they just said, this is going to be Jonathan Toews' last game as a Blackhawk because we're not re-signing him. So I didn't even get a farewell tour or anything. It was just oh yeah, game 82, we're not re-signing him. So come and watch us play against the Flyers. Just come and watch two last place teams duke it out for a higher draft pick. But he did score in that game. Obviously, I want to see Toews make a comeback. I know he's not coming back to the Blackhawks. They made that pretty clear when they said this is his last game in a Blackhawk sweater. Is he worth it for a team to take a chance on him? Especially a team that's a contender with a little bit of cap room. I mean, you'd probably pay him $1 million a season, prorated for whatever the rest of the season, as long as they sign him by the trade deadline. He's eligible for the playoffs. So could he be a help? Could he be a good third line center, defensive center?
That's one of those on one hand, but on the other hand, because both hands are going to be full. Because you don't know what he's going to look like in game action until he gets out there. I mean, yeah, they're saying that he's down to his playing weight or up to his playing weight, whichever you prefer. And he's been working out and he's been skating and he feels the best that he's felt in years. And okay, that's all fine and good, but until you actually get out there and get into real live in-game action, you really don't know. So for a team like a playoff team, for instance, to throw a chip out there for that could be a risk. But on the other hand, I mean, look, he's nowhere where he goes. Is he going to be a top six? I don't think so. No. So he's going to be a bottom six center. And a bottom six center in the caliber of Jonathan Toews, even if he could come back 3/4 of how he was, I mean, just face-offs alone, right? I mean, guy's like a career almost 60% on the face-off dot. So do what the Penguins did like the last year that Big Jeff Carter was on the team. Throw him out there, win the face-off, get him off the ice.
Right.
And put somebody else out there. I don't know. Who would be willing to give him the opportunity? I've heard rumors that the Avalanche are interested. I've heard rumors that the Leafs might be interested. The Jets might be interested. And these are all teams that are good, but they're, from a playoff standpoint, they're always this good. They've never been, over the top kind of good. I mean, everybody knows the Leaf struggles in the playoffs. The Avalanche, the question has been, they're good enough, but are they going to get past, the other teams in the West? And the Jets, I mean, they already showed that they were the best team in hockey for the longest time this year. Yeah, it's cooled off a little bit, but maybe that's what they're missing. Maybe they don't have that veteran guy, that veteran leader to jump in the locker room that's got all the extra playoff experience and the Stanley Cups and the resume like Captain Sirius has. So I don't know. It's a tough call. Yeah, you could get him for cheap, like you're saying, Sal, but what's cheap?
I mean, like I said, like $1 million prorated. I don't know what everybody's salary cap is at, and I don't really know every team's specific needs. But you look at the contending teams, like you said, like the Avalanche or like the Golden Knights or the Panthers. At worst, you sign the guy, you sign Jonathan Toews, and he ends up not playing. Look at when the Golden Knights had Phil Kessel when they won the Stanley Cup, and I don't think he played any playoff games, if I remember correctly. Does that sound about right?
Playoff games? Yeah, I don't think so. The regular season streak was still going at that point.
Right, yeah, the streak was still going at that point, but the regular season, yeah. So that's the thing. They had him on the team, And it was just like, well, we don't really need him. Until said Jonathan Quick.
Why would you need him when you reactivated Mark Stone just in time?
True, but that's
Wait,
what
did
I
I
mean.
say that out loud? I'm sorry.
Right, but if another player went down with an injury, they had somebody they could pull in, So honestly, I'd like to see him go to his hometown, the Winnipeg, to the Jets, because he's from Manitoba. So I think it'd be pretty cool for him to play for Winnipeg. That's just my opinion. Of course, I'd like to see him go to a contending team. Well, Winnipeg Jets are a contending team, but I don't know. Feel like every Canadian team has like a built-in self-destruct sooner or later.
This doesn't have the same feel to me as like, hey, let's get Ray Bourque a cup, so let's put him somewhere.
No, because Ray Bourque didn't have a cup, and Jonathan Toews has 3 cups, and he was a Conn Smythe Trophy winner, right?
Or here's Joe Thornton. Let's get him a cup and put him on the Leafs. Well, that didn't make any sense.
God, that coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? I mean, or on the Panthers, man. If he only hung on to Panthers a little bit longer, if they only hung on to him a little bit longer, that would have been sweet.
But this has a different feel because he's already got the hardware. He's got nothing to prove to anybody other than to himself to say, hey, I can kick this, I can come back, and I can do it again. So
yeah, you don't like to see players go out when they feel like they have unfinished business. You want them to go out on their own terms, Yeah,
and he certainly didn't in his case.
No, I mean, it's like, I get that he wasn't feeling well, but he did play, more than half of the games in the 22-23 season, but then the Blackhawks just didn't give him a choice. They're like, we're going to trade you. He's like, no, I don't want to be traded. So then it's just like, all right, well, we're just not going to re-sign you. And it just seemed kind of like a crummy thing. Like, it's a business decision at the end of the day. I get it. I get that.
Well, we'll find out in the next 2 months because I think they have till March 7th.
Whenever the trade deadline is, which is...
I think that's March 7th.
Yeah, okay. Shoresy, Season 4, coming January 24th in Canada on Crave TV, coming February 26th on Hulu in the United States. One of the reasons why I upgraded my ESPN Plus account to also have Disney Plus and Hulu, because, I like the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus. See, there we go again, talking about Star Wars.
If you have a bingo card at home, he mentioned Star Wars.
Yeah, I mentioned Star Wars.
Oh, were we doing that? I forgot we were doing that.
We should do that, but anyway.
Puck Junk Bingo, yeah. Sal talks about the glow puck, and Tim talks about, I don't know, his baseball.
The glow puck I haven't mentioned in a long time, but anyway.
Only when I want to annoy Tim.
Sal, did you ever work at either a comic book store or a toy company?
Yeah, and a t-shirt store too. And a sporting goods store. Man, I had so many cool jobs.
No, you had the only interesting part of your retail life was the stealing, the theft. I love those stories.
Oh, at Kohl's.
At Kohl's, that was a good podcast. Anyone that didn't listen to that, go back, and that was worth the listen. But anyway, that would be a whole row of bingo. Like that would be
Sal talks about his jobs from his teen years and 20s. But Shoresy Season 4. For those of you who don't know, Shoresy is a spin-off of the Canadian TV show / comedy, whatever you want to call it, Letterkenny. Shoresy was like a minor kind of background character who was like a hockey player, is a hockey player, and then he got spun off into his own show. Clint, have you watched Shoresy or no?
No, I haven't. I still I want to watch it, but I feel like, do I need to just watch Season 4, or do I have to go to the beginning? What's the?
You should go to the beginning of Shoresy. You don't need to watch Letterkenny to appreciate Shoresy. But Tim, why don't you? Yeah. I've been talking a lot. Why don't you take this over? Because I know you're passionate about this show.
Well, what do you want to say? I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about it.
How would you just explain it to somebody who doesn't like?
Oh, how would I explain it?
Just explain it to our listeners who are like, tell me more about this TV show that I've never watched. Or pretend like you're talking to Clemente about it.
Don't pretend. I'm actually here. You can tell me.
Oh.
So, okay. So if you never watched Letterkenny,
right?
It's a Canadian show about this little tiny town in Canada. 5,000 people live there, and the whole entire series is about all of their problems. And there's different cliques and groups of people. One of those cliques are the hockey players. And once you age out and you're not good enough to go to the NHL or one of the bigger leagues, you have to play in all these adult leagues and everything else. Well, one of the players that's in a lot of these local leagues is basically the character of Shoresy. But the funny part about him individually, they never show his face through the entire thing. You'll see him, but you never see his face. So you don't really know who he is. And he's probably the best chirper and the most foul-mouthed hockey player that you'll ever hear, with a super high-pitched voice, which makes it even funnier. So that's kind of the thing. And most of his ribs or his digs are at other hockey players, and his insults are mostly geared towards their mothers. So it's very juvenile, but it's also very hilarious. Anyway, so he plays for various teams, the Shamrocks, the Irish. He referees games and chirps people while he's a referee, and this, that, and the other. Well, they spun him off as a character to have his own show because he was so funny. So he moves to Sudbury, keeps playing hockey. You finally see his face, see who he is, the whole thing. The thing is, here's why they should show his face, right? He's Jared Keeso. Jared Keeso plays a different character in Letterkenny. But he is Shoresy. So
I see.
Obviously you can't have the same guy. But he looks totally different. Like, it's hard to tell unless you know that that's who that is. Because the way he looks, he's super clean cut and everything in Letterkenny, but in Shoresy he's not. But anyway, so it just follows this hockey team who sets out to, he's the veteran guy, and they're going to fold the team, and he doesn't want them to fold the team, and he's trying to do everything in his power to keep the owners from folding the team. And he basically says, you can't fold the team because we're never going to lose again. And they're like, well, how can you ensure that? Well, let me build the team. And he essentially goes out and finds all of these players who are essentially his ringers that he knows will come and sign with the team, and thus hijinks ensue from that point forward. And it's just, if you like hockey, especially like the lower rankings of like the dirty hockey, I call it, it's a great show. Plus, you watch the first season, and even in the second season too, there's a lot of heart in this show. Like the storylines, you get sucked into the storylines, you believe in the characters, despite all the funny and ridiculousness, which it is by far one of the funniest shows I've ever watched in my life. But it does have a lot of heart. It's very entertaining. And they're short seasons. They're only like 6-8 episodes.
Oh, that's good. So it's doable. It's not like a 25 episode season. So
yeah, it's not like something that's going to take you forever to watch, right. And you'll blow through them quickly because you'll want to sit down and keep watching them.
Sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun series to binge, and I mean, minor spoiler, but like this is like a typical not a typical episode, but like he tells the team owner, we'll never lose. Like first season, we'll never lose again. We'll never lose again. Well, he realizes in one game they're going to lose because they're missing, I don't know if their goalie was not going to come or somebody wasn't going to be there. And so what does he do? He starts a brawl in the pregame so that the game gets canceled. So technically they didn't lose the game.
They didn't lose. Yeah.
They didn't lose. And that's what he said. He said, we didn't lose the game. The game got canceled because of this bench clearing brawl in the pregame warm-up, So it's a pretty funny show.
And there's all sorts of subtle things, especially for hockey fans, that only a hockey fan would get. And the things that they name things and the stuff that they talk about and all that kind of stuff. So it's really good. It's really good. As long as you can get past, if you're squeamish and you don't like the vulgar humor, you may not like it, but I eat that stuff up.
So I have one complaint about Shoresy, and this is a good time to talk about it since we're talking about this show. And I do like Jared Key, so I do like him. And Letterkenny plays the main character, Wayne, who's like this very button up kind of conservative farmer who's like not conservative in like a Republican kind of way, just very like old school traditional. Like his sister is kind of like the neighborhood skank, and he always looks at her and he's like, put on some clothes, which is very different than Shoresy, who's kind of just like this hockey player who's not a womanizer, but he flirts. But then he always he finds somebody that he really likes. It happens to be the journalist who covers the team. My problem with Shoresy as a character is that I see how, like, in the first season he would pick on one of his teammates, and I'd say, okay, so not to get all cultural studies on everybody here, but like we have this white male character who's picking on an indigenous player on the team. And he would always say to him, he'd say, shut the fuck up, Sanguinet. You're a healthy scratch on a last place team. Now we get it. If you're a healthy scratch on a team that's losing, you're not really helping the team. You're not really worth anything to the team. But the fact was, it was just like this recurring thing. And then even when Sanguinet became the coach of the team and Shoresy would still pick on him. And I go, okay, this is like what a lot of hockey is like, though. We talk about like there being racism in hockey and like players being picked on because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity or whatever. And then here we have this character who's the protagonist, but he is like just berating his own teammate. And the thing is like, if you're a team captain, you're the captain of the team. You lead everybody on the team. You're the guy that they have to look to. And for him to be like just picking on the weakest person in the room, I had a problem liking that character. Does that make sense to you guys?
Let me ask you this though: do you think it was gratuitous just for the comedy, or is it social commentary on a situation? What do you think? What do you guys think? I haven't seen it.
I think it was meant to be funny, but I felt that like it was deeply insensitive.
You have to understand the dynamic between those two characters. They're best friends.
I don't get that though.
How can you not get it? They're best friends.
They never hang out together. Best friends hang out together. Shoresy's always hanging out at home with his 5 roommates, the other tough guys on the team. So it's not
because he doesn't live there. That's the only reason why. But any team decisions that are being made, any lineup decisions that are being made, any choices on the rosters and all of that kind of stuff, they're always with that. If they have to go to team meetings, they're always there. And of course, he has to be the center of attention. So anytime the Sanguinet pipes up, starts talking, he tells him, shut up.
Right, but
that's part of the running joke.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like a joke to me. Like it almost feels like borderline abusive. Like, yeah, they're friends, but like if you have this friend that told you to shut the fuck up all the time, and then you became the coach of the team, and he was still like basically telling you to shut up in front of all the other players, which Sanguinet finally stands up for himself and says, look, you can't do that because I'm the coach now and you have to give me a certain level of respect. That was just my problem with the character. He doesn't have to be nice and all roses and teddy bears because, he's a player and he's an old school hockey player.
Oh, and he's not.
No, he's not.
He's not nice to anyone.
He's nice to the other thugs on the team.
Who are you talking about? Which thugs?
All the guys that are not Shoresy and not Sanguinet and not the crazy goaltender.
He gives a lot of crap to everybody else, except for his friends that go out there and they're the ones that score all the goals.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do with that? And he leaves the gyms alone, except when the gyms aren't going out there and setting the tone.
Yeah.
So.
Of course, then again, the gyms are also very tough players, right? So he's not going to pick on the other tough guys. You know what I mean? But anyway, that was just my thought on that. I do have one wish. I don't know if this is going to happen in next season. I would love to see Riley and Jonesy from Letterkenny get added to the Blueberry Bulldogs. That would be awesome.
It would be interesting. I wondered if they were going to bring those characters back.
They need help scoring.
Yeah, and with how the last season ended, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people, but
they need help scoring. And you remember when Riley and Jonesy went to the senior team in Letterkenny and they became selfish hockey players and just focused on scoring, and then the team started winning. So I think that'd be great because then it would reunite those characters, and Shoresy loved to pick on Riley and Jonesy.
yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, what about here? I know that was your problem with the bullying, but what about the whole flipping the gender stereotypes on their head by putting all the women in charge of everything? The women own the team. The women are in charge of the team. The women run the business portion of the team. They own the building. They own the league. The entire board is made up of women.
What do I think? It's a TV show. It's fictional.
Okay, so is all the bullying. It's part of the script. If that's the stance you're going to take, I mean, we're trying to make a parallel here, right?
I think these are two different things, though.
Okay. You say so.
Like, I think it's good to show women as coaches, owners, team managers, board members, whatever, especially in a sport like hockey. I mean, look, we make a big deal when there's a woman assistant coach or a woman assistant GM in the NHL, right? Because it doesn't happen very often. It's just now starting to happen. I don't know what that one has to do with the other is what I'm saying.
Because you're trying to point out things that go against what's the typical social norms of today.
No,
So you have a character that's busting out people for having, being a certain race or acting a certain way or looking a certain way or this, that, and the other as a bully. But you also have a whole entire show that the basis of the power struggle within the show, not counting the hockey players themselves, but a whole entire show that's devoted seemingly to objectifying women with the slow walk-ups and the hot girls in bikinis all the time and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like again, the team's owned by a woman. The team's run by women. They're all in all the power positions. They have 2 assistants. The journalist that covers the team is a woman. I mean, it's all like that. And you don't see that in anything.
Right. And so in a way, Shoresy kind of really has to watch himself and watch what he says and watch how he behaves because he's probably not used to that. So there is some comedy in that. I'm not saying that the women are part of the comedy. I think the comedy aspect is that Shoresy, if he was interacting with a man who is the owner of a team, he's probably used to behaving a certain way, and now he has to behave differently, maybe.
I think it's funny that he tries to dish out the same stuff to them and they dish it right back. That's what I think is hilarious.
You know what I can't ever figure out is that like the team owner and her 2 assistants, they're always standing next to her.
Yeah.
But they're behind her desk standing next to her. Don't they have chairs?
They're the sentinels that have to stand guard.
So anyway, yeah, so I'll definitely be watching that show. And Clemente or anybody else who hasn't watched first couple of seasons, you should check it out because it's on right now if you have Hulu. And it's a funny show, definitely worth watching. And anytime we get anything hockey, TV, or movie related that's not the Mighty Ducks, that's a win.
And by the way, there's actual hockey players that play in this.
So, oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, of course you got Terry Ryan and you got
it's not just people that were trained to pretend like they could skate. There's actual hockey players.
So it's not just bullying and women. There's actually hockey in this.
That's Terry Ryan plays Hitch in it. There's also a lot of the other characters.
Doesn't John Morasti play one of the?
Yeah, John Morasti's one of the Jims.
Yep.
Brandon and Jordan Nolan both.
Mm-hmm.
They had stints at various stages of hockey. You got a bunch of other guys that had hockey experience at other levels too. So it's somewhat authentic, at least when you watch some of the action stuff. It's not fake. You can't watch it and go, okay, right there, that's Rob Lowe in that picture, but that's his body double in that picture. And then that's Rob Lowe again, and then that's his body double. And then that's another guy because the guy that's his body double was sick that day. And then this is him, but that's not. Like, you don't get any of that.
All right. Hockey card time, yes?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first and foremost, National Hockey Card Day is coming back for 2025. No surprise there. Saturday, April 5th, 2025. It's going to be the typical believe it's going to be the same as last year, right? It's going to be the 30 card set plus the 1 incentive card if you make a purchase, and then the checklist if you count the checklist. I count the checklist. And then it's going to be the same set for US and Canada, I believe. Tim, have you heard anything different?
Same thing, as far as I know.
I don't know if I like this change that they made a couple years ago. I liked it when it was a 15 card set, 16 with the incentive card, 17 with the checklist. It was pretty easy to put together. You only needed like 3-4 packs or whatever. 30 cards, that's a lot more packs that you have to get. I liked that there was a different set in Canada, because then you'd get some cross-border training. Trading. I would build extra USA sets, trade them to people in Canada. I'd get the Canadian set in return. It was nice, but nice to get something you don't normally get. I can understand why Upper Deck would do the same for both Canada and the US. I mean, one, it's just easier if they just produce one set for both markets or both countries. And I think the other thing too is that they kind of had a hard time, like they'd want to make like a Sidney Crosby card in the Canadian set, but because he doesn't play for like a Canadian team, they'd have to do like Canada's heroes, and then they would like do like 5 cards of like Canadian born players, right? Or they would do like in the US, they would do like hometown heroes, and then because they'd want to do like Crosby in the US set, but he's not an American, so then they would like hometown heroes because he's with Pittsburgh or whatever, right? I didn't really have a problem with that, but I get why they're doing what they're doing. Like they're just like, here's 30 players, and I think it's like 10 rookies, 10 current stars, 10 retired stars. That kind of makes sense, right? You can't really argue with that, right? Wrong? Yes? No?
No,
I think you're right.
It's a fine breakdown on the checklist. My problem is always with the collation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the collation is bad. So you can pull 5 packs, and they could be exactly the same cards in all 5 packs. And that's out of the same box. So it is random, obviously. So they're packing these boxes, but let's say you have an LCS that decides to hold back a pile of packs for you, and you sit there and you bust them all and go through them, and out of, let's say for argument's sake, we open 15 packs. Well, with 5 cards per pack, you should have easily been able to put together a set. And yet, when all's said and done, you have 4 or 5 cards that you have 4 or 5 of, and you're still missing 2. So, yes, that happened last year. So, I don't like that part of it, but one thing with this year coming up, they added more signature cards, so that's a new thing.
How so? What do you mean more? Like easier odds, or just more of them overall?
There's a different set. They're called, I think they're called Signature Sensations.
Okay.
They added to the checklist. That seems to be the only thing that's really different. Or no, signature series, not Signature Sensation. Signature series. So you got more chances at pulling an auto.
That's an incentive, because I think you need to create more of a chase element, almost like a tops now situation. Otherwise, the whole purpose of this thing is to get people just to go to their LCS and buy something that day, and then get something in return. That's the original premise.
I watched a video of somebody last year. They had an entire case of these. Why they had an entire case, I don't know.
Okay.
There were 10 boxes. There were 10 boxes in a case.
Oh my God!
And they posted it on YouTube.
That's a lot of the same. That's a lot of the same cards.
They posted it on YouTube. Out of all 10 boxes, so 100 packs in each box. So 1,000 packs, and there was 1 auto.
Wow!
They found 1 auto and all of that.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that's normal, but I get it. I mean, you'll find more victory rookies, the victory black rookies, which are kind of cool. I mean, it's the only shot you got at getting the victory brand is in the hockey card day, but those tend to pull a little more weight when they put the decent rookies at the beginning of the year. But this is kind of like the end of the year.
Well, also last year, because of Bedard, there was interest in this giveaway more than normal, you know.
Yeah, and the buy card was a Bedard card too.
Right.
So if you spent $10, you got the extra card. That was also a Bedard card. So
right, I remember that. Yeah.
I don't know what was on the checklist. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't know if they have it posted or not. I haven't seen it.
I haven't been able to find any of that info yet. Even the Upper Deck National Hockey Card Day Facebook page still has information from 2024. No images or anything from 2025 as of yet.
Yeah, most of the retailers that are selling it or will have it have already got the posts up for advertising it. So Upper Deck has not really a sell sheet, but they have their ad promo out to dealers and distributors.
So I'll definitely be getting into that like I do every year, like I have since they started it in 2012, I believe, in the United States. And it's funny. I put all my NHCD cards in one binder because I'm thinking about reorganizing. I put most of my cards that I want to look at in pages, and especially like small sets that are like 10 cards, 20 cards, whatever. And I thought, it's like I have like the hockey card day sets like for 11, 12. I have it in like my 2011-12 Upper Deck Series 1, Series 2 binder, right? But then I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to put them all together in one binder. And so I'm going to start doing that with all my McDonald's cards, all my hockey card day cards. Most of the Hortons cards have their own custom albums, so I'm going to just use those. But like for some of those like sets that are just like kind of standalone small sets, like I did the same with remember the AHL All-Star sets by Choice Marketing? They were like 40, 50 cards. I put all of those in one binder, and it was pretty cool. So that's what I started doing with my hockey card day, just putting them all in one album. And there's a few years I don't have, which annoys me. So I got to try to track those down. But yeah,
mine
big
are all
fan.
jewel cases.
That's okay too. That's fine too. I think with cards like those, because they're glossy, I think anything that's like glossy, like an old Victory set or something, I say old, like 10, 15 years old, whatever, because they're glossy and we're always worried about bricking, I've started putting those cards in like penny sleeves. So, but I think like newer sets, maybe not so much of a problem until they're like 10 years old.
Hopefully I won't have mine that long.
No, you'll put them in pages by then, right?
No, I'll be dead. My kids will sell off my collection, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Woo! Bring the room down.
Ooh. Yeah, there you go.
I think Tim's feeling better.
Yeah.
And I'm back.
He's back. All right. That Gatorade's kicking in.
This water, actually.
PWHL cards. Professional Women's Hockey League cards coming January 22nd, 2025. So this is the first, not the first PWHL cards because there were EPAC cards, but first like packed out product of PWHL. These are going to look like the 23-24 Upper Deck Series 1, Series 2 Extended Series cards. So the design is not unique. It's not original. I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like so many of these sets kind of look the same now that it doesn't even matter at this point. Though I do kind of think it's kind of cool to have like kind of a visual continuity between the NHL and the PWHL cards from like the same season. Oh, and there'll be 50 base cards and 20 young guns. Plus, there will be Dazzlers and Portraits inserts. Tim, you seem pretty psyched about this set coming out.
I think we were all fairly excited about it when we first heard about it. Oh, I don't know, 3 years ago or 4 years ago when it was
a different league.
Yeah, when it was going to be the
PHF.
The PHF, yeah, it was going to be the PHF set, which never saw the light of day. So then we thought, oh, okay, so they're going to team up with PWHL. Well, yeah, they did. And since they've been taking their time in building this league and trying to build the momentum and do it correctly, I guess Upper Deck is following suit. So now we're finally getting this set that we've been waiting for forever, right?
At least a year and a half.
Yeah, at least. You brought up EPAC. They teased us a little bit not that long ago with the PWHL Showcase set that was available to turn into actual cards through the e-pack program, but that was 16 cards. And you're like, is this what we were waiting for? And then there was talk where, oh, it's going to be a complete set. You're just going to buy it. It's going to be a box set. And what's the fun in that, right? People want to open something. And if you're trying to market this to try to get that whole other demographic, they want the same experience that everybody else has, if that's what you're going to collect. So you want to be able to open product. You don't want to be able to just buy it and here's a card. So I think that's good. I am a little disappointed as to what the setup is as far as what they've released on the sell sheets. I was expecting something more for having waited this long. So in a box, you get 12 packs, 6 cards in a box. You get 3 Young Guns, 2 Dazzlers, 2 Portraits, and a Young Gun Outburst. So that's about it. So there are other parallels, like the other Young Gun parallels, like the Deluxe, the Exclusives, the High Gloss. Those are all available as well as the red and gold Outbursts. But beyond that, the only inserts are the Portraits and the Dazzlers. And, we go over the Upper Deck sets every year, and these are both insert sets that have been around for quite a long time. Have we beat a dead horse with those? Were we looking for something different? Could there have been something different in here? I don't know. Upper Deck's in a tight spot with this, I think. You got a brand new set for a brand new league with a whole different demographic that you're potentially marketing to, because let's face it, you're not going to get most of the traditional hockey card collectors on board with this because they collect NHL cards. And if they're not already sold on this league and sold on watching these women play, because if you haven't seen them, you're missing out, because these are really good games. It's really good competition. These are really good players. But that being said, this isn't going to be for everybody. So they already have shrunk their market space down a little bit. So they got to be able to bring in somebody somewhere. And I think they could have done probably a better job of throwing a few more inserts in there, possibly throwing some memorabilia, I guess. I don't know if they would have gotten it that early enough, but I mean, what's memorabilia these days? You slap a jersey on somebody for 2 seconds. Okay, take it off. We're cutting it up. I mean, that's really all the requirement is. As long as they touched it, it counts, right? Autographs, I didn't see anything on the list about autographs. So, I don't know. Like I was saying to you guys earlier, I'm hoping there's some Easter eggs in here that we don't know about. Like hidden autographs or even redemptions. I'll take a redemption at this point. Like, seriously.
That's a great synopsis, I think. And I agree with Tim on what he said. But, we mostly complain about too many inserts and too many parallels. And here, maybe we have too little. So it's kind of striking a balance that Upper Deck needs to learn how to do that. Second of all, it's clearly not a high priority for Upper Deck. I mean, yes, they want to put a good product out, but they're not going to spend the time to do what they do with Upper Deck Series 1, for example, flagship. But I hope that this is just a precursor to something that will be more robust in the future. But nonetheless, I'm excited about these cards coming out. I think having the Young Guns in there is great. I think it adds a chase element to wanting to get those short printed cards, for the people that care. And there's that. And then I think because the league is trying to grow, we just don't know where this league will be in 5 or 10 years. I mean, look at WNBA. I mean, I know the ratings are not great and most people don't watch it compared to the NBA, but Caitlin Clark is able to, in terms of just ratings, but also collectibles and trading cards. If you look at some of the most expensive cards sold at auction last year, Caitlin Clark is on that list many times. Many of her cards are on there because Panini figured out, hey, we can make quality product here, and there's a demand for her cards, especially rare ones, numbered ones, rookie ones, from basketball collectors. And if hockey collectors look at it the same way, then maybe those Young Guns will see increased value in the next few years, or maybe future sets will see growth. So I would say if you support the league and you enjoy the games, you should buy a box of this, because ultimately you have to vote with your feet. You have to buy Upper Deck has to see sales. If no one buys it, they're never going to put a lot of time and effort into it. That's number one. Number two, I think maybe giving these cards out at games will be huge, or at events that involve the league, so it becomes almost like a calling card, and so it gets young girls and boys into hockey cards that they may not normally have gotten into, and it helps promote the league, so it helps both sides. And then for collectors, if this probably would be a great TTM product, because I could see a scenario where these players will sign autographs because they want to promote the league. They're ambassadors. This happened with women's soccer years ago when it was kind of a fledgling thing, and now it's grown. It's not as big as men's soccer, obviously, but this is the curse of women's sports, I think, for the longest time. So that's kind of the headwinds that this league is facing. But I do think that having this product is good, and I'm excited about it. And hopefully, it can be just the start of something bigger in the future.
Look, I can throw out famous last words, and I can say this league is legit, which I think it is, and it might be here for quite a while. Look at what's happened. They budgeted for 3,000 people in attendance at these games. They're averaging 6,000 plus at most places. So they're already outperforming by almost double, in many cases, what they thought they were going to do. And they're shopping around locations for these neutral site games for potential, let's see what we can pull from this crowd. Let's see what we can pull from this crowd. Where's the interest? Where do we need to be? Because eventually they want to expand. Could they add another team? Could they add 2 more teams? It's all the same ownership, right? The same ownership group owns all the teams, and it's going to continue to be that way. So it's not like you're going to run into problems where one team's being managed a certain way and one team has this and one team has that, but the other team doesn't. It's the same management. So they can keep things consistent and keep things running in a way that it's not flipped upside down, where within a year or two you have the haves and the have-nots, right? Because they're going to make it so you don't. And they have drafts. They're bringing in new players all the time. If you pay attention to the league at all, you'll know that they had a suspension already this season, and there was a giant 2-for-2 real live hockey trade done about a week or two ago in the league. So, they seem pretty legit. I'm excited for the card set. I will pick it up. Let me put a caveat to that. If it's not $300 a box, I will pick this up, because there is zero incentive, as far as whatever's extra in there, for this to be $300 a box, other than because of the hype.
Look, I don't think in a million years it's $300. The gauge for me is, will it cost more or less than Upper Deck Extended? I'm curious to see that. But I think it has to be affordable, because look at the configuration. I know that Sal did the math, but the configuration is, you're not getting a whole lot of variety here, so you can't charge all that much for a box. And if you want people that don't normally buy hockey cards or buy women's hockey cards, then you need to make this accessible. And so Upper Deck, I think, has to know that, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the checklist looks like, because this is a 2024 product. We are in 2025. There is the overlap on the season for this year. There wasn't much of an overlap last year because of the shortened season, because it was brand new.
They had no names.
Yeah, and it's a longer season this year. If you notice the sell sheet pictures, they're all the jerseys from last season, where they just have the team name rather than the logos. So the chances of someone like Sarah Fillier being in here are probably slim to none.
That's the young gun everybody wants, probably.
That would be the young gun, with her being the first overall pick.
Right.
And as good as she is, I mean, she's legit. I know I've used that word too many times today. I must have heard
we'll
it.
Put on the bingo card.
Yeah, I must have heard it or something. I don't know why I keep saying it, but yeah. So I don't know if she'll be in there or not. So,
well, if this is for 23-24 season, which really just took place in 2024, no, because this is going to be last season.
That's what I'm assuming.
That's what I've heard. They're already soliciting the 24-25 set.
Yeah.
I did see a listing for that.
They're going to be a year behind all the time then. I mean, unless they
we've
somehow
kind of been like that, and I think
that's true.
you think Upper Deck's kind of okay with that because, I mean, like they did with Bedard, they were able to just really milk out the 23-24 season. With this, I feel like they're playing catch up a little bit, right? Especially with like, look, how many times the three of us being all in our 40s, yes, I'm still in my 40s, yay, but not for much longer, have we seen a new league come out, a set of cards come out for that league, and then the league folds, right? Remember the World League of American Football?
Yeah.
And I think Pro Set put out one set of cards one year.
I think the XFL, same thing, XFL. I think
the XFL and the XFL 2.0 and what was that, Alliance of American Football? The week that league folded, the Topps football card set for it hit the shelves. Can you imagine that? Like, you're the card store owner and you got the AAF cards and then you find out, oh, league is folding. Now, who's going to buy these damn cards that I ordered, 6 months ago? So, yeah, we've seen a lot of these leagues like just kind of pop up and then fold, right? So it's just like, if I was Upper Deck, I would have kind of waited until the second season and be like, okay, all right, yep, all right, you're not going anywhere. You are legit, as Tim would say. So, yeah, all right, let's put out the set of cards, right? And I get that. It's okay to do a wait and see. Yeah, I think it's safe to wait a little bit, and I think that's what Upper Deck did. Also, I think it's exciting that they're using young guns. They're using what has worked in the other products. I mean, if they did PWHL cards and they were like Victory or MVP, just make them Upper Deck, right? I get it, it's not Series 1, Series 2, but it's got that same design. I kind of like that visual continuity. Is it lazy? Yeah, kind of. But also, why does it need to be different? If people like it, that 23-24 Young Gun design is iconic now because it's the Bedard's Young Gun, right? So it has that design. So to use it in this set as well just kind of makes sense. The one thing though, if you buy a box, you'll probably be able to build a base set because you'll get 60 base cards and the base set is 50 cards. So if the collation is good, you could probably get a base set out of one box. Now, you'll need 7 boxes to get all the Young Guns. Again, that's assuming almost no doubles because 7 boxes would get you 21 Young Guns, and there's 20 Young Guns in the set. But, keep in mind there's also the gold Outburst, silver Outbursts, and all those other parallels. So it's kind of neat that they're using what is helping hype their flagship product and using that for this product.
It is, but like you said, too many inserts, not enough inserts. Where's the happy medium?
I think this is okay for their first set, and it's only 50 cards and 20 short prints. We don't need to have 17 different inserts. We don't need Hundo P and Electromagnetic and Lunchbox Legends and all those other ones, right? And Constellations, and I know that's a different set, but you know what I mean. Constellations.
It'll be interesting to see what the price tag is they start slapping on these things. I know I've tried to use some of the backdoor methods on the search engines, and I've seen anywhere from $90 to $120. I hope that's what it is, because anything more than that, it's going to scare people away, I think.
Yeah, the $10 pack, yeah, makes sense. Shall we move on to our final topic?
Yes, do it.
The final topic. Okay, so I've been wanting to vent about this for a while.
Good, because it happened a while ago.
I know, but we did our last episode, and I didn't even know that this was a thing when we recorded our last episode, and then I haven't really had a chance to talk about this too much, but DA Card World, who sells trading cards,
and is not a sponsor of this show.
And not a sponsor of this show. So they made headlines back in early 2024 when they said that they would pay $1 million to the person who pulled the gold Young Gun Outburst parallel Connor Bedard rookie card. This was going to be a 1-of-1. The gold Outburst, they're numbered 1 out of 1. And they said they would pay $1 million for this card. So then everybody got all hyped about this, like saying, oh, I hope I get a Bedard Young Gun, but it would be really great if I got the gold one because it's worth $1 million. And that was the takeaway. That was the sound bite that everybody was saying. Somebody is willing to pay $1 million for a Bedard rookie card, this special Bedard rookie card. And who is it? It's DA Card World. So they basically got all this free publicity for talking a big game. But then on December 9th, they just quietly added a little bit of text to the top of the blog post where they said they'd offer the $1 million bounty. And they said, update, December 9th, 2024. This is no longer an active bounty. It has expired. Yeah. And so, how do I say this? It's one thing to talk the talk, but it's another thing to walk the walk. So basically, they got a bunch of free publicity, probably helped to artificially inflate the prices of Upper Deck Series 2 boxes, reaped all the benefits from that for just basically talking a good game. But now that the hype has died down, that collectors have moved on, some are already saying Bedard's a bust, which is ridiculous, which really just goes to show how these people who are breaking these products don't understand hockey, don't know what they're talking about. If they're already saying that a guy who's a point-a-game player in his second season and leads his team in scoring is a bust, just goes to show that they don't know shit about hockey. Oh, and the other thing, I'll say this, and then I'll hang up and listen, as they used to say on the talk shows. The longer this card is out there and nobody has stepped up and said, hey, I got this card, the more likely it is an EPAC card. I think that it would be an EPAC card. And DA said they'd only buy it if the card graded a 9 or higher. Well, if it's an EPAC card, it's probably going to grade a 9 or a 10 because nobody's actually handling the card, right? It's getting handled, but not the same as it getting shipped from here to there to the distributor, warehouse, whatever, to the card shop, to the card show, to the whatever. So I don't know. I'm just really kind of pissed off about this, right? Because it's like, maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to offer $1 million. Who's the next guy who's going to have a big rookie season, right? Maybe I just need to go out there and get in front of it and say, you know what? Puck Junk will pay $1 million for this card. But then I'll put a bunch of little caveats like must grade a 10. Must do this, must do that, must be willing to meet up with me, must be willing to take a cashier's check, right? Like they kind of like threw in those little like outs, like, well, if it doesn't grade 9 or higher, then we're not going to buy it. And then I think after like people stop giving a shit, then just saying, okay, I'm not going to buy it anymore.
You want to take this?
I'll take it to say a couple of things. One,
okay.
I mostly agree with what you're saying in the sense that to suddenly just make the bounty go away, I do think that they helped add to the hype. And look, David Adams sells products and boxes, and they were selling the boxes for $330, so they were reaping the benefits, as you mentioned. And Yahoo Sports wrote about this, and they wrote something that I found really interesting. And I'm just going to read like 2 paragraphs, and it says, "The concern is a sudden expiration of the bounty without notice. Imagine if you stopped putting expiration dates on gallons of milk. The milk tastes just fine yesterday, and today it smells funny. David Adams, Card World, just served a glass of bad milk to the entire sports card community." And I think that's true in the sense that there was no like social media posts. You make a good example. You can say Puck Junk will offer this with all these crazy caveats. You would get a ton of pickup. People would write about you. And nobody ever asked the question like, where's David Adams? Do they have $1 million for this card? First of all, this card isn't worth $1 million. This card may be worth $200,000. But if you're going to buy it for $1 million, there's no resale. And so part of me thinks that even if it was ever pulled, they would have been like hemming and hawing that it didn't fit their very narrow focus to begin with. And that would get less attention, of course. And so I do think that it's a publicity stunt, which a lot of journalists and people on social media fall for, because press releases, people just fall for them, and they're looking for content and news, and they're going to repeat this. I just can't believe it hasn't been pulled. And maybe someone pulled it and just put it in their basement and in their sleeve somewhere and hasn't said anything. I doubt that in the world of social media, everyone's got a flex. But I think what this will do going forward is that no one will take these bounties seriously. At least I hope so, though people have short memories. But I hope that going forward, when someone like David Adams says, "Oh, we're going to pay $1 million for Macklin Celebrini 1 of 1," people are going to be like, "Nah, you're not. It's baloney." And I hope that there's some repercussion. There won't be. That's why this is so perfect. You can just put the bounty out there, make it sunset. And it wasn't sunsetting from the beginning. They added that date when what? I thought maybe they had pulled it, actually. I was like, maybe they pulled it and they just decided to, or maybe something happened that we don't know about that forces sudden, like, wait, we're never going to pay $1 million for this. This is baloney. That's what gets me upset about it and gets me angry about it.
What say you, Tim? Tim is speechless for the first time in.
I'm surprised.
Look, what are you mad about, bro? Is it the fact that they didn't disclose that they were going to end it at some point? Because that's what I'd be ticked off about.
Yeah, for starters.
Yeah. For starters. That's really what, to me, that's what it boils down to.
Because you change the rules of engagement after you hype the price.
Correct.
That's what I think.
Your game, your rules, you're doing it your way. Okay, fine. I don't think anywhere anybody actually listed that was going to go away. So when it did, and when it did so quietly, where it wasn't posted on anything, like, hey, we just wanted to let everybody know we're ending this. Why are we ending it? Because it's been out there too long and we don't want to pay it even if somebody finds it. Or, I don't know, somebody in, Calgary pulled it already and they just don't want to sell it to us for whatever reason.
Right.
Or what? Grand scheme of this, it basically puts a lot of questions around whether or not bounties themselves should even be a thing. I mean, it's kind of hard to stop them, and I don't see how you could possibly even regulate them, but it really raises an eyebrow to the legitimacy of them, because if they don't disclose it ahead of time and they can just expire them at will, right? How valid are they really? Because you could turn around tomorrow with one that they didn't expire and be like, oh, I found this. And then they go to you, oh, sorry, that already expired. Well, when? When did it expire? Oh, it expired like in September. Or they could make something up like that.
I guess the question is a bounty like a contest? Because if you have a contest, states have all kinds of rules around contests and rules. I mean, when they announced the bounty, when you join a contest, they have like all that fine print.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was none of that other than like, it has to be a PSA 10 and has to be a Tuesday and has to be sunny out, whatever these silly things that they put out there. But it wasn't a real boilerplate language with expiration dates, because a real contest is regulated by, I think, state attorney generals. Like there's rules, and David Adams is in New York State. It's upstate New York. So they would have to abide by the New York, whatever the rules of a contest are. But by not calling it a contest and calling it a bounty and just posting a thing on social media, I guess they can just get away with it. But in the future, somebody will have a disagreement with David Adams or somebody else who put out a bounty, and they'll sue them. And if you're putting out a bounty, you're also opening yourself up to potential lawsuit, because someone could just say, I have the card. Now you don't want it. It's $1 million. You told me it's $1 million. And they created basically $1 million lotto ticket that didn't exist or hasn't been pulled yet. And so I get the artificial inflation of the price is the problem here, because it makes the base Young Guns worth more. It makes people buy more product. It makes the breakers go crazy to chase it.
Right.
They just gave up on it. And I just wish I knew the backstory, like the decision behind, if you're the head of David Adams, you should get out there and say, no, we stopped because of A, B, and C, but we never got that.
And you know why they haven't? You know why they haven't? And why they won't?
I don't know.
It's because the prices tanked. That's it. That's the only explanation.
But it was never worth $1 million. I mean, maybe it was that first week, which they probably thought someone was going to pull it the first week.
From March until, I would say, August, September-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been.
I bet they could have. Yeah. I bet they could have got that for it. Would they have been able to grade it, turn it around, and flip it for more than that? Probably not. And especially now that you see how the prices have tanked. Well, guess why the price is tanked? Because they weren't sustainable in the beginning. They weren't real.
Well, they were overinflated. Yeah.
And why were they overinflated? Because of things like this.
Right.
So people were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars opening box upon case upon pallet of this stuff, chasing after what's potentially this $1 million payday, only to find out, A, it was either pulled, or B, they scammed everybody to sell product. So I hope it's not the latter, but even if it was, what can you do about it? Nothing. People are still going to buy from DA, or people still going to go, oh my God, they're offering a bounty. Look, the Caitlin Clark bounty, somebody pulled that card. The one that they offered for that
it was a 1-1, right?
What was the card? It was like I think it was some kind of Prism 1-of-1, something or other.
I think it might have been,
Somebody pulled that one. What was the other one they had? Oh, that Dylan Cruz 1-of-1. Well, that was only 200,000, but somebody cashed in on that one. But you're talking 100,000, 200,000, 400,000.
Right.
We're not talking million.
The Paul Skeens debut patch where the Pirates are like, we'll give you 30-year season tickets and we'll get you an autograph this and you can meet Livy Dunn and blah, blah, whatever, all that.
We'll give you front row season. We'll give you front row season tickets. Nobody wants those.
Even if you live in Florida, we'll give you front row tickets, even if you live 1,000 miles away and you can't go to these games. But whatever, but that card hasn't been pulled. But at least that's not a bounty, that's an offer. And you can say, no thanks, I don't want to go to your crummy games and meet Paul Skeens for 5 minutes. I want to sell this card at Golden where I can make $500,000 or whatever, or more. Because the Pittsburgh Pirates are not stupid. They're not going to call it a bounty because they know, or a contest because they know there'll be too many eyeballs on them, as opposed to, because they have to abide by all the rules of Major League Baseball and everybody else.
God forbid, nothing do anything that costs them money.
Well, that's the thing. The ironic thing about the Pirates is that they don't spend money on players, but they're willing to spend money to get this card to give to Paul Skeens, or I think it's Paul Skeens one. It is money, really, I think. But anyhow, what I'm saying is that this is going to highlight the potential disaster that is the bounty. And just not to mention the fact that it's just aggravating because all of us in the hockey card space are just trying to move along, trying to get a base Young Guns card, and all this made that more difficult for all of us.
Are we going to be talking a year or two from now going, you remember that time those companies were offering bounties for stupid cardboard? Like, is this just a fad that's going to phase out?
Maybe.
I think my problem with it being DA Card World offering this bounty is that this allowed them to inflate the price of Series 2 boxes. Those had no business being $330 for a 12-pack box. What is that, like $30 a pack? And then E-Pack had them for $20 a pack, even though Series 1 were $11.99 a pack. And I asked about that when I talked to somebody from Upper Deck, and they said, we try to maintain a price. We're close to what, basically they're not going to undercut what the retailers are selling it for. Even though a lot of times E-Pack is a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. I think in this case, they can only really go up to $20 a pack.
The funny thing was that everybody was selling it for $330. It was almost like there was collusion.
Yeah.
You go to Steel City. I mean, I remember I was in Chicago for the Spectacular, and even like every table had it for $330. It was almost like they all said, okay, it's $330. And nobody had it for $300 or $350. I mean, it was all $330. It was like exactly that amount.
So that's my problem, is that they're a company that their business is to sell unopened boxes of products. But then when they say, hey, if you pull this card, we'll buy it off of you for $1 million, that kind of gives them license to raise their price. And then everybody else raised their price. It's like the ultimate pump and dump. It's like they pumped up the price and then they dumped the bounty on it. So I'm annoyed by this. Look, I will say this, I have mixed feelings about DA Card World. Every time I've ordered from them online, shipping was fast, items were well packed. My only problem with the products I bought is I seem to get a lot of my hits were of Sabres players. I guess because they're near Buffalo. So I don't know. One year I bought 5 boxes of artifacts, and 4 of the 5 autographs, 1 per box, they were all Sabres players. And I'm just like, okay, that's too many to be a coincidence, right? And then I think I bought a box of like, was it Masterpieces or something? And it had like a hand-drawn card of Gilbert Perreault. And I bought that box from DA Card World. I'm like, wow, I just keep getting Sabres. I need to stop buying from them because all my hits are Sabres. I have a friend who bought, I think it was an AHL or a rookie class or some sort of box set from DA Card World. All the cards were defective. He brought it back. He said, can I exchange this? And they're like, well, you opened it. He goes, no, it's a boxed set. It was almost like the cards were smashed on one corner. And they kind of gave him a little bit of a hard time on that. They didn't want to take back the item. It's not like, hey, I opened this box of Series 2 and I didn't get a Bedard. I want my money back. It's like, hey, I bought this AHL box set. Remember the year they did the AHL box set? And like all the cards were defective. And so we just wanted to swap it for another one. And as a retailer, then you could take that defective product and send it back to your distributor for a credit. I mean, that's how these things work. Now, I'm talking about my friend's experience, and I'm talking about my experience at shows. They've always been polite. They've always been a big presence at shows. The people that work there have always been nice to me. I'll even chat with them a bit. But then anytime I've reached out to DA for comment, like when I'm writing about National Hockey Card Day or something, it's always been crickets from them. So I don't know. It's just like, maybe I'm not a big enough journalist when I write for the hockey news, but when it's just like, hey, I'm writing about National Hockey Card Day, you want to talk about it with me for Sports Collectors Digest or hockey news, then they've never gotten back to me. So I don't know. Like I said, I got kind of mixed opinions, like some good experiences, some bad experiences, but I will say my buying from them has never been a problem. I think my problems have just been with the other things.
Yeah, I had the same experience you had. Minus the Sabres thing. That never happened to me. But otherwise, I mean, I'm in New York City, so when I order from them, and they have a pop-up store now in New York City, they're going to open a brick-and-mortar store in New York City. The incentive to want to go is great because they have a big selection because they buy a lot product, obviously. They're a big distributor. And that's why I think we're upset with the Bedard situation because there's such a big player in the market. Them and Steel City are the two biggest, I think, in terms of selling. And so, yeah, you have a responsibility. And, look, maybe this is a lesson and they'll stop doing it. I doubt it because I think it helps sell product. And maybe the idea is not to fall for this stuff. Not that we did, not that we were buying pallets of it, looking for Bedard 1-of-1 because, we didn't even have the money or the funds to buy the one box in the hopes of getting it or even to finish our base sets. And so there's a big gaping hole in my collecting from last year because of that. But no, it's just frustrating, and I guess it's par for the course in terms of where the hobby is today. But maybe Tim is right. Maybe in 3 years from now, we'll say, hey, remember those bounties? That's like a thing of the past now because they'll come up with cook up some other scheme or some other idea to get people excited. So we just have to keep navigating it. That's all.
All right, guys, any last thoughts before we wrap this one up? Because this has been a really good comeback episode.
Seems like all of our episodes are comeback episodes.
That's because we have a gap like a 2-week gap, so that's a comeback.
I don't know what we're coming back from, though.
We'll come back from the holidays. That's what
holidays, yeah. No, we'll be back.
We rose from the dead.
We're back.
We did? We were only off for 2 weeks.
It's going to be a very long year.
It was like a month, dude. 3 weeks?
2 weeks, a month, whatever.
Yeah.
Time is irrelevant.
It's all right.
I lose track of time during the holidays.
Time is irrelevant anymore.
All right. Well, speaking of time, look at the time. So I think we will cut it off here. So thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. Surprise. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Write us a review. That's a big help. Wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or another podcast provider, it'd be super helpful if you wrote us a review. If you like to read, you can go to puckjunk.com and read articles from all of us there. You can also subscribe to the newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter. And until next time, collect what you like.